Hey everybody, I'm Tommy and you're on the lifeboat. What's happening? Happy Mother's Day to all of the ladies and to all of the mothers. Happy Mother's Day to all of you, right? Thank you, mothers, for making this day possible. This show, folks, is 4 years in the making. I've wanted to do this show for a really long time. It's a fascinating subject. There's just about nobody on YouTube that hasn't come across somebody in court talking to a judge, and you hear them say stuff like this. The judge will say, "Hey, are you Johnny Scoville, or are you Tommy Scoville, or are you Brett Miller, or whatever?" And the response is, "Well, Your Honor, I am not the all capital version, right, of Tommy Scoville." There is a theory among these people. If you've never seen this before, it's kind of fascinating. Or you may have seen people pulled from automobiles, right? Somebody busts out the window of the car, sends in a 130-pound fur missile to chew onto the guy's arm and drag him out of the car because he refuses to get out, right? Because he isn't subject to the laws of the United States of America. See, he's simply traveling. He's not driving an automobile, man. He's a traveler. And the federal government gives you the right to travel. Right? They can't restrict that. It says so right in the federal blah, blah, blah. You all familiar with this? Now, I've wanted to do this story for a really long time, but you're not going to make $1 on it. Plain and simple, they don't want these things monetized because, God forbid, I'm trying to teach somebody this foolishness. Now, before anybody starts hating me, I'm not saying that at some point we didn't switch as a country and change what we're doing. And maybe we really are under admiralty law. Maybe this really is under maritime law and that we've been juking the entire world. Because I'm going to tell you what these people believe in. It's going to blow your mind. It really is. It's going to blow your mind. Now, maybe they're right. Right? Maybe they're right. But I view it as a four-way stop. Everybody can relate to a four-way stop because there's nobody listening to me that hasn't had to do it, right? You show up at a stop sign. There's no traffic light. We're just going to trust that whoever got there first is then going to go first. Whoever got there second, well, they'll go second. You see where this is going? Okay. Now, if you get there and you know you're the first person and the guy to the left is starting to put his foot on the gas, you have the right to go. You're going to get T-boned in the side of your car. May do you some serious damage. Maybe it'll even kill you. But you got the right to go, damn it. Now, maybe these people are right. Maybe the stuff that they spout has some basis in truth. Hey, Juby Joe, good to see you. Kristen Melinda, what's happening? Grace Twinkletoes, Roberta. Kristen, good to have you. Maybe there's something to it. However, no one's ever won. And if you want to say to me, "Oh, I've watched a sovereign citizen win in court," go ahead and shoot me that. I'd like to see that. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't judges that have tapped out to get these people out of their courtrooms and thrown out misdemeanor crimes. There's a ton of stuff like that. What you don't see is people that are actually getting their point across as a sovereign citizen. So where did all of this start? Back in the 1970s, there was a group of people in the United States who formed a bit of an organization. You could call it a militia. You could call it a gang. You could call it whatever you want. But they called themselves Posse Comitatus. Now, if you are a law nerd of any kind, you're going to go, Posse Comitatus. I know I've heard that word before. What the hell is Posse Comitatus? It's a strange law, and if you look it up, it basically says this. The United States of America can't say, "Tell you what I'm going to do, Juby Joe. I got about 35 soldiers, and I need you to put them up in your house. We're just going to stick them in there, whether you like it or not. The government is going to say, you're taking some military people into your house. By the way, you need to feed them," right? None of that can happen. The government, there's a disconnect between the government, the military, all of this stuff. But they called themselves Posse Comitatus, and they decided that the only people that had any authority at all were sheriffs, right? A sheriff could arrest you. They could do whatever. And I can understand why they do this. I was in a state where the FBI couldn't arrest me, which was really funny because I was there for a bank robbery. But they had to show up. The sheriff had to arrest me, hand me over to the FBI because the FBI didn't have arrest privileges there. Bizarre, right? But all of these things give you a little something to go on, and you go, you know why the FBI has to have a sheriff arrest you? Because the only thing in the Constitution that gives you any right to do any kind of arresting comes back to sheriffs. Well, they believed this stuff. They also believed that Jesus was Lord, right? But only of the white people. I'm not playing. This jumped out of the Christian, the ultra-right Christian movement that said, well, you heard... you've heard all of this stuff before, but these are the people that decided that well, God really digs white people. He's not that fond of any of the other ones. And you can probably tell this because every picture of Jesus is Jewish. I mean, is white, right? He's not Jewish every time you see a picture of him. But they truthfully believed this. And they started this whole process. And it spun out into the patriot movement, right? Not to be confused with the modern version of it. But then back in the 70s, this patriot movement, a lot of people buying a lot of hardware, right? Guns, silencers. They were making bombs. They were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And they were moving to places where they could buy an awful lot of land real cheap. So when you hear people say that the biggest threat to our country is radical right-wing extremists, it may sound silly, right? But start watching some court stuff and see how many sovereign citizens come walking through. Now, here's their doctrine, right? Here's what they believe. Pay attention, folks, because this is going to get a little screwy, all right? But pay attention. You've heard them say that they believe they're not, like, I'm not Tommy Scoville. I am the human Tommy Scoville. I'm not the straw man Tommy Scoville. The concept is this. The day you were born, the United States of America takes out a loan in your name, right? But in a capital letter version of your name. So they spell your name with all caps and they borrow a chunk of money, which they're then going to start using. So they're going to start playing the stock market. They're going to start investing, all of this stuff with your money, right? And the theory is, depending on which branch of this bizarro world that you listen to, they believe that the government takes all of these loans out. So every single American's got millions of dollars. Some of these people believe it's grown to billions. But what they do is they're basically taking out a loan against all of the taxes they're going to hammer you for over the course of your life. This is the theory, right? Now, there's nothing to back this up. It's been, people have taken this to the Supreme Court to try to find where's this money that we can unlock? And this is their doctrine. If you file the paperwork right, you can break from this illegal corporation. The United States of America, according to the sovereign citizens, isn't a country. It's a corporation. It is a corporation. And this corporation has been borrowing money against the lives of its citizens since, right, the inception of our country. Now, the fallacy is that these people who believe in this believe that if you're able to separate, right? If you're able to separate yourself from that entity, then they can't arrest you. I don't know, that would be cool, wouldn't it? There's a pretty cool concept. You can't be arrested. Why? Well, because they watched Law and Order or some show like it back in the 1950s, and they saw some guy walking along that said, hey, I have diplomatic immunity, which doesn't, they confuse this really bad. They think if you are a dual citizen, right? If you're a citizen of another country, well, then damn it, you have diplomatic immunity. Well, that's not the case. You would have to be a diplomat, not just a dual citizen, but whatever, right? Diplomatic immunity is what they're gunning for. So you can't charge them. You see, they're not really a member of the United States of America. They got rid of all of that crap. Now they're their own country. And here's the nutty job. They're going to buy a piece of land, right, in Iowa or Idaho or someplace, and they're going to say, this is my embassy, right? This land right here, just like an embassy would be in the United States. The Iranian embassy is on Iranian land. Huh? Yeah. The French embassy, that's on French land in the United States of America. This is how this is done all over the world. So these free citizens declare the little plot of land that they live on to be like a Native American would. This is their tribal land. Crazy thing is, as I said, this sprouted out of white supremacy. It really did. You can look this up. It's very easy to research. It sprouted out of the white supremacy movement. However, it then got hijacked. And one of the groups that really runs with it is an African-American group, right? They call themselves the Moorish Temple or the Moorish Free Citizens. And their theory is just like the crazy white folk theory, except it's a crazy black guy theory. And they say that they're from Morocco. They're really Moroccan. And they're not subject to the rights of the United States of America. Now, all this sounds just fine and dandy. The trouble is, none of it is real. So when you see these people get pulled over on the side of the road and they go, yeah, officer, I'm not driving, right? I'm traveling. If you've been on the boat for any length of time, you probably remember the story. Years ago, when I was living in Nevada, I had gotten out of prison. I'd been out about 2 years. And I had been saying forever to my partner at the time, if I ever get pulled over by the cops, I'm going to do the sovereign citizen thing for laughs. And I did get pulled over, and the person walked up to the car and they said, "Can I see your license, registration, and proof of insurance?" And I dropped right into the sovereign citizen speech. And I go, yeah, I'm not sure why you pulled me over. I am not, right, doing any kind of commerce, because this is their thing. The only time you have to have a license, if you're a sovereign citizen, they say the only time you have to have a license is if you're conducting business. So if I have a truck and I'm hauling stuff in my truck, or if I have a taxi cab or I'm doing DoorDash, I'm making money. And if I'm making money, then the state can say you have to have a license, you have to have insurance, you have to have your vehicle registered because you're doing commerce. The sovereign citizens say, if you are just traveling and you're not actually using your vehicle to make any money, there's no commerce involved, then you can travel without any encumbrance from the government. Because it does say, right, in the Constitution, that they're not going to put any laws that are going to stop you from wanderlust. Go wherever you want. We are not going to stop you. And I got news for you. That's a dead fact, man. The government says that. You can go wherever you want. You can travel wherever you want. If you want to do it like Forrest Gump, no one's going to get in your way. Yeah? But they believe that the state can't force you to get a driver's license. This is what happens to Christians and other religions as well. I'm going to pick one verse of the Bible. I'm going to pick the verse of the Bible that says all green things were put there for man's use so that I can justify my pot smoking. I'm not going to research anything else in the book, right? Screw all of that dying for your sins and all of that stuff. I just want to be able to smoke weed and say that it came from God. So I'm going to pick one verse out of this. Well, this is what sovereign citizens do, right, with the Constitution. So they pick out a couple of key things that says, hey, you're allowed to travel anywhere you want. If you keep reading the part that they quote, it says, states and municipalities, however, have a right to impose whatever laws they deem fit, so that you can travel within their state. Seems legit, right? I got a question for all of these travelers. Can you travel in a helicopter? Can you travel in a bus? Can you travel in a cruise ship? So if I just walk on down and say, I'd like to get in a 747 and I would like to travel, right, from Tucson, Arizona to Miami, Florida, going to go see some friends in Florida, and I would like to travel there with the use of a plane, they would say, no, you can't do that. Why not? Because we aren't sure you know how to fly one. Afraid I might crash it into the ground with hundreds of people on it? Okay, as crazy as this sounds, it's the exact same reason you're not allowed to just jump in an automobile and travel. You see, the state has to protect all of the other idiots from you. You go out there, you've never been in a car before, you're pulling the license plate off the back of it. I don't need a license plate. I'm just traveling. Now I T-bone a family of 4 at an intersection. I don't have any insurance because I'm just traveling. Okay, this has been litigated, relitigated, litigated some more, all the way to the Supreme Court. So many times you could vomit. Like you can actually look up case law, one after the other, where we have had to, as a country, put up with morons that believe you can quote one part of a constitution and justify everything in your life based on it. And the lunacy. So this conspiracy that the reason they're spelling your name on your birth certificate with all caps is because it's tied to a secret bank account in your name. I'm sorry, folks, this is kooky. No one has ever accessed this secret money, right? You can hire a private plane. Yeah, sure you can. About 30 grand to get it off the ground, right? That's before you even start going anywhere, but about 30K to get it up because you have to have, you got to have a crew on there. You got to have a crap load of fuel, and that stuff is not jet fuel too, is not cheap. It's diesel, anhydrous diesel fuel, I believe is what it is. Like diesel fuel without any water in it. But all of these things, you have to have a license to go fishing. But they're going to let you travel all across the country, right? Because you have that right. You hear them say the same script over and over again. And it's crazy. The craziest thing to me is when you see it in court and the person goes in, the judge has to want to put a gun right here. Every time they go, yes, the defendant is Tommy Scoville. Tommy, are you in the room? Well, I'm not the entity Tommy Scoville. I am the free person Tommy Scoville. You can watch the judge go like this. You got to be shitting me. Right? We're going to do this again. It's the same script every time, and they don't listen, right, to anything you say. They say the UCC 1.3. They know all of the doctrine to spit out. None of it, however, means a thing. And in the beginning, it's funnier than hell. I'm sorry it is. But I started to research this, and one of the things that I found out about old Posse Comitatus is that they taught that you're not going to win any of this crap. This was used as the T word you can't say on YouTube, terrorism, right? This was used as terrorism. They showed how you can maliciously start to file liens and all of these different paper terrorism. Some of us know what that's about. Bunch of whack jobs out there filing paperwork on you for things that mean nothing. They just tie up the courts, right? All these people that are trying to do God's work. What we really need to do is pull the police off of looking for kids so they can see if Tommy Scoville is smuggling a liquid in his rectum across the Mexican border. Because, well, damn it, that just makes sense. The funny thing, folks, is I start researching this and I'm like, where does it come from? How do you get a bunch of people to buy into this shit? Now, I can give you the pitch of the sovereign citizen. I don't have to go research it. Why? Because I did time in a federal prison. Made sense to me in federal prison. Why people jump on this sovereign citizen bandwagon. Because you're locked in there for the rest of your life. So if you can figure out how this whole system is BS, well, then you might just have a way out. And you'll get a couple articulate fools who can't get their own YouTube channel, you see. Why? Well, because they're stuck in prison. But these guys have got game. They're public speakers. They're good. And they're going to pitch a bunch of other inmates on it. It's their subscribers. And then those subscribers will do things like buy them some soup, right? I know you don't want to go down to the chow hall. We're trying to get that form done, right? We're trying to file by Friday. He's also going to say, I need $400 to file this motion. And people come up with the money. I watched a guy, and I'll tell you his name. He's locked up. I don't think there's a whole lot. He's doing life in prison. Believe it or not, his name is Jim Neighbors, like the guy that used to play Gomer Pyle. And he had a cellmate named Jim Neighbors. It was very, very confusing. The older of the two died, basically penniless. But he had saved about 45 grand, which in prison is literally you're a billionaire. He saved $45,000 over about 35 years working at Unicor. He was an old bank robber. But he believed until the day his heart stopped beating that they were going to get all of those people out of jail because this isn't even a real country. This is just, it's a corporation and all of this is a hustle. And you know what? Everybody pitching it inside, they're the people that are going to break the lid off of this. Once the whole world hears that you got millions of dollars in your name, that's what that little social security card's for. That's not to track you or anything else. That's a bank account number, right? Straight up. That 8-digit number that they gave you, that's just a bank account number. Tie that to your straw man, all capital letters name. Good God, man. So going down this rabbit hole, let me tell you the things that happen. We're talking about, no joke, billions of dollars, billions of lost money. Why? Because the court system is jam-packed with idiots that have gone in and said, I'm going to rent a home for $4,000 a month for me and my family. So I go in and I start filling out the paperwork. Now you say, no one's going to let you do that without bulletproof credit tied to a bank account, this and that. I beg to differ. We are a country that bends over backwards to help people. We do. If you do the paperwork right, the government will step in and help you. So every time you see one of these people, they're in an apartment that they're getting on Section 8. So they might be paying $500 a month for this apartment, but this apartment to anyone else would be $3,500. They're letting this person pay a smaller amount. The government is subsidizing it. So they don't need a credit check. They assume these people don't have credit. But the government is going to help. So what these people do is they go in and they don't pay ever. Not month 1, not month 2, not month 3. And by month 4, they go in and they say, I'm canceling my contract with you, right? No more contract between me and you. And I want the money back for the last 4 months that I paid you. And, right, first month's last month. And they look at him and go, what the hell are you talking about? You never paid $1. I gave you my account number. And they fill out all this paperwork with the capitalized straw man name and your social security and a copy of your birth certificate. But they filed these papers. And we live in a country where a judge can't go like this. That's absolute BS and throw it across the room. He has to sit down in front of this person whose IQ ain't breaking 60 and say, go ahead and explain to me again, sir, why you believe that you can travel anywhere in the United States without a driver's license. Can you give me that one? Sir, can you explain to me again why you don't have to pay your rent? Why, as a free person, you get to live in a house that belongs to somebody? that you're renting from, that free person is getting bent over, right? Hey, it is what it is, right? No responsibility. The answer to the question I asked earlier, where does this come from? It comes from desperation. It comes from a hell of a lot of men. I'm not saying that there are not sovereign citizen women. There's a lot of them. There is a lot of them. But it is definitely a movement that is probably 80% male. A lot of guys in it. And there are a lot of guys who, for a lack of a better way to put it, feel like that little sack they got is a lot more like a raisin these days than what they were born with. They start feeling emasculated. They can't make a living. They're not making enough cash to get out of their own way. There has to be a reason that they're getting screwed. You go out and you work a job, you work 40 hours a week, you bust your ass, and the best you can do is keep your lips just above the waterline, right? And then somebody comes along who's eloquent, who says, you can't win. The deck is stacked, right? But you want to hear what's really going to piss you off? Huh? Would you, Lisa Miller? It's not bad enough that you can't win, Lisa, but you've got 50, maybe 100 million in an account with your name on it. They set up a trust in your name and they start going down through all this stuff. And then just a little bit of truth will go so long, right? So far. You can pull something out, read a little bit of truth, and then just bullshit all around it, right? So for instance, anytime you go into court, there's a flag behind the judge, right? Okay. What's the difference between that flag and any other flag? They're all, well, that one's got gold frill around the outside of it. Why? Because if you can get a room full of people who already don't trust the government, if you get a room full of people who already think that there's no way the reason you're a failure is because you didn't put in enough effort, or the reason you're a failure is you decided to do heroin every day for 3 decades, right? That might have something to do with it. No, it's not your fault. The government has been screwing you since the day you were born. That you didn't ask to have a loan taken out in your name, did you? Huh? Of course you didn't. Now all these arbitrary laws are in place just to screw you over. They don't even have jurisdiction over you. They can't do any of these things. When you get into court, if you just say to them, I'm not getting into contract with you. Here's the danger in this. Go start watching some of these videos. And you know what you're going to see? You're going to see judges say to guys, you know what? Screw it. You know, here it is. This was your trial. The person goes there and the pitch man, right? The Tommy Scoville in the situation that's going to tell this person why they can get away with murder now that they're a sovereign citizen. Explains that if they go in and they do this right and they say to the judge, look, Your Honor, I'm not getting into a contract with the state of Arizona. I am a free man. I live in this country, but I'm not of this country, right? I live here, but I am a dual citizen and I am my own person. I am a free person. I am not the straw man. And they go down this pitch and they believe wholeheartedly that the judge is going to go like this. Ah, shit, Tony, it's one of those that's got us. We got to let him go, right? Shh, close the door. Don't tell anyone. All right, go home. Take your stuff. You don't have to worry about it. They really believe that's going to happen. Do you understand? So when the judge says you want to question whether or not this court has jurisdiction, and the term they use in the free society is subject matter jurisdiction. The court doesn't have subject matter jurisdiction, and like so many other lies, they will lie to you in such a way that you don't have a third option, right? Their favorite thing is to say this. They'll say to the judge, Your Honor, this has got to be a civil or a criminal court, correct? Well, just for starters, those aren't the only two kinds of court, right? From the word go, we already have a faulty concept that you either have to be in a civil court or you have to be in a criminal court. Couldn't be anything else, right? Well, the courts that go in and make laws like you can't park 5 feet from a fire hydrant, those are courts, right? And those courts aren't practicing either kind of law. This is judicial stuff. They're actually passing laws that are going to affect things like how municipalities do things. Well, that wouldn't be criminal law, and that wouldn't be what was the other one? Civil law. But if you go in there and you go, which one is it, Your Honor? It's got to be one of these two, and the judge goes, well, no, it's not. Their other thing is they say you're stomping on my constitutional rights. Okay. The 10th Amendment to the Constitution gives the states rights to pass laws that are unique to their state. You see, the concept way back in the day was we were the United States of America. So 50 governments, right? 48 contiguous and a few offshore, but 50 little governments and a big government that provides for common defense, promotes the general welfare, and secures the blessings of liberty, yada, yada. Right? They don't believe that the government of the United States has said ever legally that a state can pass a law. Huh? So this movement is giving back their driver's licenses, right? I'm not going to have a driver's license. There are jackwagons out there ready for the check so that they can sell you your own license plate, right? They're dinging these things out. Boom, boom. A license plate that'll say something like free traveler, not for hire. And they put all this stuff over the outside of their car. I got news for you. You're dreaming. Tell you a funny story. I'm sitting in a county jail waiting to go to court on a federal case. And there's a guy that comes in and he's a bit gumpy, right? I don't think this guy's IQ was triple digit. I don't. I'm not being cruel. But he sits down and he goes, hey, Rocco. I go, what's up? He goes, I'm going to walk on this, right? They're not going to be able to convict me of this. And I said, well, that's friggin' fantastic. Good for you, man. What's the ace in the hole, man? What do you got up your sleeve? And he said, I was arrested on March 4th, right? I said, okay. But he wrote April 4th on the date. I said, okay. And he goes, I was incarcerated on April 4th because he had been in jail by this point months. And I said, I see where you're going with this. He said, so when I get in there, I'm going to get the guy on the stand and I'm going to say, so you did this on the 4th of April, right? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So it takes 6-7 months to get into court. So he's just sitting there waiting for all of this to happen. And he goes into court, right? Like the guy at the four-way stop. He goes into court and he says, Your Honor, I have a question before this thing even gets going. And the judge goes, what's your question? And he says, I was pulled over. By the way, it wasn't just a traffic stop. When the guy pulled him over, he searched the car, found a bunch of methamphetamine. But he said, Your Honor, when I was pulled over, according to this, I was pulled over on April the 4th. I was incarcerated on April the 4th. You know what the judge said? Oh, okay. Fix that. Fix that for him. Right? Put March 4th. Fix it. And the dude went, you can't do that. Right? You can't do that. And he goes, of course I can. He's got a body cam that shows the date. He's got a dash cam on his card that shows the date. He obviously just wrote it down wrong. But in this dude's head, if he wrote that down wrong, you're walking. That's the get out of jail free card. I've said this a bunch of times. Hope springs immaculate, right? It never stops. For the person waiting to go to prison, you are grasping at any straw you can wrap your fingers around. So I can understand why this flows inside a prison. I don't understand why this is so popular on the street, other than the fact that the American dream is dying. And I'm not trying to badmouth the country. There are still people who are going to make it. But we live in a country now where, depending on what part of the country you're in, your first house is going to cost you $750,000. It's kind of a tall order for the American dream, isn't it? Especially if the way you intend to get to that American dream is because you became a lawyer or you became a doctor, right? So you got through college and then a little bit of post-grad work. So you're carrying what, 250, 300 grand in debt? And your first house is going to cost you $750. So you're what? You're about $1 million in the hole before you cash your first check. That's a stacked deck. And this is leading to desperation of people that just want to believe there's a magic button. There's a switch that you can throw that will make all of this go away. It's sad. It is absolutely sad. So this movement is now a genre on YouTube. And it's a huge genre. And I'll be honest, it's a rabbit hole. It's more fun to go down than anything you've ever seen until it's no longer funny. And what you got to start realizing is that this is burying our judicial system. It really is. And you'll hear the content creators who are sovereign citizens literally tell everybody to do just that. They want the court systems tied up with thousands of people who go, I'm not driving, I'm traveling. If you walk into court and the judge says, Tommy Scoville, you were pulled over on the 14th. You were going 65 miles an hour in a 40. What do you got to say about this? Your Honor, I was really, really late. I've been having a terrible time. This is a really big fine. All right, 160. How about we put it down to 90? Are we good on that? Yeah, Your Honor, I'm good. Next person up. And it goes like this. One right after the other. You've probably been in court. One right after the other. The dispensation, the whole process might take 3 minutes till you get to that sovereign citizen. It's going to take that judge an hour to get this jackwagon to admit that they're Tommy Scoville, because they're not, you see. I'm not that person, right? Or they're so afraid to say the word drive, right? They only say travel. There's all of these things that are part of the playbook. And half of the time, they're holding it in their hand and reading it. They're literally reading off of the script. And you can just watch the judges going like this. Oh, my God. Recently, because this has been litigated so much now, I watched a judge the other day say to a guy, the person said, you don't have, and he spit out it was probably res ipsa loquitur, right? Which is a concept in legalese. It speaks for itself. It doesn't have to be explained. Res ipsa loquitur. It speaks for itself. A great example. I don't have any hate in my heart, right? Res ipsa loquitur. I'm probably not getting back with my ex. It speaks for itself. I don't need a 45 minutes show explaining. Everybody can probably go, oh, I can see that. Res ipsa loquitur. But when the guy said it, he said it having nothing to do with anything. And the judge said to him, do you know any other legal words? You could work them in, because all you're doing is taking legal words and trying to put them in a sentence, but you're not working anything in. I saw another judge yesterday watching one of the videos who said, I'm going to give you 2 cases of travelers that went all the way to the Supreme Court, and I'll let you keep calling yourself a traveler. And if you want to call yourself Tommy Freeman Scoville, you can do that too. I'll play any game you want, just as long as I can get this done in under 3 hours. Because if you got 2 of these jackasses on the docket in the same day, and you'd go, there's no way of that. I watched a judge the other day get 3 of them. You're going to put the court behind weeks. Weeks. You got a guy for a traffic violation who's going to tie up the court for hours. And we have such a structured entity that you can't go like this. You're an idiot and I'm throwing you out of the court. Because when you appeal that to the next level, what's on the record is the judge saying you're an idiot. They're going to throw the thing out. So the judge has to go like this. Yes, Mr. Scoville, I understand that you believe that you are not that straw man. But one of those 2 entities better enter a plea today or I'm going to arrest you. One of them is going to get arrested. And very often the person goes into court and says, I'm not Tommy Scoville. I'm the Freeman Tommy Scoville. And the judge will go, okay, enter into the record that Tommy Scoville isn't here and enter a bench warrant for him. These are how the judges are starting to slap people that want to come in and play these games. If you say, I'm not that entity, they go, okay, since that entity isn't here, we'll just arrest that entity. Put out a bench warrant for him. By the way, you look a lot like that entity. And these people are getting thrown into jail, and then they file appeals, and the number of these that are clouding up this system. I'll tell you something fascinating. I can order a book into prison called The Anarchist Cookbook. Now, I don't know if you can today, but you sure as shit could when I was in there. You could order into prison a book called The Anarchist Cookbook. It will tell you how to make plastic explosives. It will tell you how to make booze. It will tell you how to take bananas and turn them into PCP. Like, it's a pretty wild book. But that First Amendment, that right of free speech, trumps damn near everything, right? So they will allow those things to come in. There are guys who get gun magazines, right, who are in prison for felon in possession of felon in possession of a firearm. What? You know he's got a magazine showing pictures and stuff that he can't have anything to do with. He can't possess it. He can't do anything. That free speech is a big deal. But if you try to get a book into federal prison on the sovereign citizen movement or on the uniform, the UCC, any of those codes, any of those statutes, any of the stuff that starts talking to you about the fact that you don't have to be a member of this straw man society that is just, taking out money in your name and it's a BS entity and blah, blah, blah. It's absolutely gotten to the point where it is eroding the fabric, sadly, of our judicial system. It's clogging it up so badly that the federal government says none of those books are coming in, not a one. You cannot have them. You got any idea how hard it is to abridge someone's ability to buy a book and read it? For real, man. Like, to get a judge or a Supreme Court to go, yeah, you know what? I'm sorry, but you can say you're not going to read that in there. That's crazy stuff, man. That really is. That's crazy stuff, but they will not allow it because one book like that in a federal prison and the number of lawsuits that will come out of that prison, every jerk off in there they're suing the warden, they're suing the captain, they're suing the lieutenant, they're suing the doctors. One guy, and I hate to do it, right? Because I'm rooting for the dude. I've made that really clear. But Derek Lee Cardello Smith has filed hundreds and hundreds of lawsuits. And it does become paper terrorism. Now, in that particular case, if you've been following it, you know what I'm talking about. If by some chance you were stuck in a prison that you could not get out of, you'd have to do something. And maybe he's filing like this as a message in the bottle. I'd like to believe that. He has not, however, reached out to me. I've written to him twice, so I don't know. But it can't be put into words how much damage is being done to our country by this movement. And I used to think it was really funny. I did, because you're going to watch him get beat up. You're going to watch him get smacked around. You're going to see all kinds of stuff. Hold on a second. Well, and here's what I will say, Tommy Bird. Like, I'm not going to argue any of these points. I'm not. Like the four-way stop. I'm not saying the tenets of what they're saying aren't true. I'm not saying that the United States government isn't an entity. I know that the Internal Revenue Service is a privately owned company, right, that is based out of Puerto Rico. It's got nothing to do with the United States. I know this pitch inside and out, and I do believe a lot of it. Here's the deal. When you get to court, there's never been a guy that won. Show him to me, right? Find me a case of the sovereign citizen that went in and said, I'm breaking away from all of this, and you're not going to do anything about it. That doesn't happen. And while I was in the SHU in Phoenix, Arizona, this was when I first got there. I was there for about 3 weeks before I got a cellmate, the one that you guys know about. But the first 3 or 4 weeks I was in there, I had a lawyer, a guy that had gone to prison for allegedly trying to show people how to not pay taxes. Like, he had a deal on the street where he would sell a course that says, I'm not going to, this course says you don't have to pay taxes. Well, the government gets real dicey when you start saying they don't have to pay taxes. Now, can you find anywhere in the Constitution that says that the government has a right to tax us? Because I've never been able to find it. Now, they are allowed to take cash from us to set up a military so that the federal government protects the 50 states. That's how I read that. However, once again, they're taxing us. And Wesley Snipes, right? Wesley Snipes was one of the guys that went to the line and said, I don't have to pay taxes. Honestly, right down that line, like the sovereign citizen stuff. He said, I don't have to pay taxes. There's nowhere in the United States Constitution that says I got to pay taxes. And guess what? I'm not going to pay it. And they went, okay, you're going to federal prison. And if you owe money for taxes, we don't have debtor prison in the United States. You really got to screw up to get put in prison for not paying taxes. Because if you say, hey, I'll make a payment, right? It's only $6, but I'll make a payment. They'll go, okay. If you're making payments and you're consistently making payments, we're cool with that. Wesley Snipes said, I ain't making any payments. I don't know, you squat. You don't have the right to do this. They went, okay. And then they broke him off, 5 years, 7 years, something like that. Like, it was, have a seat, Wesley. This movement is getting a little frightening. You got people on the side of the road rolling up their window, putting the phone, right, hitting record, and saying to a cop, I'm not getting out of this car. Pay attention really quickly, folks. To an ex-criminal, pay attention really quickly. When you start saying to a cop, I'm not following your instructions, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. He has a gun on his hip. And if you get into a confrontation, the courts are going to side with that dude. I promise, right? These people, the stuff that cops can get away with, because I've lived it, I have lived some really brutal crap that cops can do to you. So maybe your best bet is to pick your battles. And refusing to give a cop on the side of the road your driver's license, there are people who are going to die playing these games. Because you got a bunch of cops around, they're breaking a window of the car to get in at you. They're trying to drag you out. The day is coming where we're going to lose some sovereign citizens. Or worse, right? Cops are going to get killed, or innocent bystanders are going to get killed. But this stuff that used to be fun to laugh at has gotten really freaking serious. And as I was putting this thing together, the number of times they pull somebody over who's a sovereign citizen, who's packing heat, right? Bang, carrying a gun. By the way, usually they don't have paperwork for it because they don't believe that you need paperwork for anything. You see, and guess what? Before anybody hates me, I'm a libertarian. I mean, I am a libertarian. I don't think they should be able to tell you what you do in your bedroom. That's your business. As long as everybody's into it, knock yourself out. And if you want to sniff something in your bedroom, I don't think the government should be able to tell you what you're putting up your nose either. I am a libertarian. I think the government should have nothing to do with anything. They should provide for the common defense and get the hell off of my back on anything else. But guess what? Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. We live in a world where that ain't the game, right? There is a system in place that you're not going to win. In fact, you've lost before you start fighting. If you come across any of this stuff and it starts sounding like it makes a whole lot of sense, I'm going to tell you that, of course, it sounds like it makes a whole lot of sense. Again, it's like saying all green things on earth were put here for man's use. See, God wants you to smoke pot. Well, if that's the only thing you take out of the Bible, I promise you, you can find all kinds of other places that talk about how you don't do anything unless you're doing it in moderation. And you have to take anything in its totality. And unfortunately, the sovereign citizens have picked out literally sentences, right? Sentences from the Constitution that purportedly give them rights like the ability to travel, right? Unencumbered, unrestricted, unmolested. You can walk your ass off. You could probably do it on a bike and pedal it, right? Probably do it on a horse. But when you put an engine into place, well, common sense. If you start using an engine, when that first came to be, we take for granted the fact that there's a million cars on the road, 6-lane highways, that people are smoking by at each other, right? Think about it. You're going down the road at 80 miles an hour, jamming like this to AC/DC, and 3 feet away is a guy doing the same thing. We take it for granted that it's just supremely safe to do that, right? We don't even think about it. Little 2,000-pound missiles flying down the road, feet apart from one another, while people are jamming and texting and looking out the window. God help us. How do we not kill each other every second? Well, because when you're 15, you got to go and take a test, right? You got to have a learner's permit. And you have to log so many hours behind the wheel. And then they say, you're okay to drive. Why would you not want that? Why would it be a good idea to just allow people to get into these 2,000-pound missiles and drive around without any responsibility? You understand? I don't love the system. But if I'm going to drive something that can kill a family of 4, maybe I ought to have a little insurance so that if I hurt a family of 4, some rich group out there can take care of that family if I'm not able to. Seems logical. The lunatic fringe. I know you're out there. The lunatic fringe in this country, and I don't care whether you're a lunatic lefty or you're a lunatic righty. You're terrifying. These guys are lunatic right-wingers for the most part. But regardless of which part of the lunatic fringe you're on, you're scaring the crap out of everybody. Feel me? It is starting to get scary. And when you start getting to the point that this is affecting our country, all of these people who scream about the country sucking and we're not taking care of kids and this and that, how much money are we wasting on these stupid cases? When you talk about $1 billion, that's $999 million plus one more. What could you do with $1,000 million to help people? Well, you could do a lot better than trying to make these people understand that no matter how their name is spelled, they're still Tommy Scoville, or they're still Roberta, or they're still who frickin' forever, right? For whoever you are, you ain't changing. No matter how they spell it, no matter any of that stuff, straw man this, whatever, guess what? It's not going to work. It hasn't yet. Maybe get out of the system. And here's what I mean by that. Their goal, holy hell, their goal, went down the wrong pipe. Their goal is to drop out of the system completely so that you're not in it. You're gone, right? You have nothing to do with anything. You're going to do the exact opposite. You're going to take a shitty $56 ticket and you're going to be in court for it for the next 5 years of your life because you're going to get contempt of court charges. You're going to get all of these things of judges stacking stuff up on you. And you know what? The first time you pull that I'm just traveling crap, if you don't think the person in that car says to every other cop, hey, it's a Prius, on the license plate, it says the LB, right? This guy's one of those crazy sovereign citizen people. If you pull him over, you see the same people again and again and again. And guess what? Once you're trapped in that system, I did that. Every criminal's done that. And every criminal laments and does this one with their hands. Once you're in the system, you're never going to get out, right? They're going to pick you up for little minor stupid crap. They're going to pull you over because your license plate lights out. They're going to search your car. They're going to find a roach of the last guy who owned it, blah, blah, blah. Criminals get caught in the system because they commit crime. These idiots get caught in the system because somebody made them believe that they're a little smarter than everybody else. You understand that's a big deal. When you talk to a sovereign citizen person, they don't want to say to you, hey, there's this sovereign citizen movement. Like, unlike anything else, they want to convert every single person they talk to. That's frustrating as hell, first of all, right? It really is when every single one of them you meet wants to pitch you. And I heard it so many times. I was telling my brother this the other day. This one, Jim Neighbors would come up and go, hey, listen, I'd go, whoa, no, hey, nope. I'm not doing any lunacy today. You're not going to talk to me about Article 1 of the Constitution. You're not going to talk to me about seditious, conspiracies. And I don't want to hear any of this, man. If you were right, why are you directly below me in your cell, right? How is it you're downstairs from me? You have this get out of jail free pass. You've been locked up for 30 some odd years. They're always this close. The next thing they file, everybody gets out. And I'm not joking to you. They're saying everybody gets out. That nobody who is in prison, once the world finds out about this, they have to let everybody out of prison because they're in there under admiralty, blah, 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 blah. By the way, as a convicted felon, I can't think of anything more frightening on earth than letting out everybody in prison at the same time. Give me a heads up so I can be in a different country when that happens. I'm sorry. A lot of people in prison are there for a really good reason. I mean, like they shouldn't ever get out. The dangerous people. Their society is being protected from them. God, it's a terrifying concept. If anybody is familiar with the boat evacuations from Cuba, when you do federal time, the people will talk about it. What was it called? The Mariana boat lift? Something like that. It had a woman's name, something. But those boat lifts where we were saving all of the people that were coming from Cuba, they were dumped out of Cuban prisons and asylums. Not bad-mouthing it, but that is exactly what happened. And to hear people say, that's right. See, he gets it. Tommy Bird gets it. I wasn't in prison. That wasn't me. That was my straw man. Right? That was the straw man, Tommy Scoville. It's a frightening. That's right. You can't get arrested. Can't get arrested. Yes. And I've always said, like, I got a couple of friends whose names are Karen, and they're the loveliest people I've ever met. I hate when people call women who are obnoxious Karens. I find it really disturbing. However, there is a whole segment, a whole genre of this that they call sovereign Karens. And if you look up sovereign Karens, you're going to see women tased in court. You're going to see people, because this is a derangement syndrome. It really is. These are people that are so far gone. It's truthy, right? Like my friend was telling me the other night, right? Truthy. It's so true that nothing is going to make it not true. Right? It's so true that facts won't change that. And they will tell you that no matter what you hear, we are not a country. We are a corporation. And if you can say, I'm not entering into any contracts, there will be no contracts between me and your corporation. My corporation and your corporation aren't going to do anything. We're not going to coexist. Then what they do is one of the standard operating filing of paper terrorism. If I'm in a beef, I will take the court clerk, I will take the judge, I will take the prosecuting attorney, and I will list all of them as officers on my corporation. Now I can say, hey, there are all of you, you can't possibly, you can't sit on the bench, Your Honor, on this case because you're a officer in my corporation. Like you're just going to go and make somebody a principal in your corporation without permission and then use that as a way to say, I don't have to listen to any of this. And it sounds silly, doesn't it? But they filed paperwork on it. And that means that somebody has to read that paperwork and they just can't go denied. It doesn't work like that because it will go up to the next level and they'll go, why did you deny it? Okay, screw it. We're going to rule against you. So these poor prosecutors, God, did you ever think you'd hear Tommy Scoville say that one? These poor prosecutors and their paralegals and whatnot are stuck having to answer to these frivolous BS motions that are filed by people that don't have the equivalence of a 6th grade education when it comes to law. If I needed my appendix out, I trust my brother emphatically. I wouldn't let him remove my appendix, right? Doesn't seem like it would be a really good idea. If I am going to do something in a court of law, I'm hiring an attorney. If I'm going to do something about my body, I'm going to hire a doctor. But these idiots, they would never say, I'm going to do brain surgery on myself. Get me a mirror, right? But they'll say, I'm going to pretend to be a lawyer today. I'm going to pretend to be a lawyer today. They repeat themselves over and over again. I am hoping that what you guys do is take a little bit of time and start going down the rabbit hole of the sovereign citizen movement online. I'd like you to start taking a look at it. If there is interest in the group, I am going to start doing one day a week where I do, I don't know, Sovereign Citizen Tuesday, Sovereign Citizen Friday, whatever. It will be funny because some of the things that these people say, I'm sorry, are hysterically funny. I've said on the boat 100 times that ignorant convicts love to confuse what double jeopardy means, right? They just like going double jeopardy. They scream it out like it's, ha! It means absolutely nothing, but they scream it out whenever they feel like they got screwed over. Double jeopardy literally means that if I walked into court and they said, all right, we're charging you with being a con man, and I went in and I beat it, and they go, you're innocent, Tommy, the jury finds you innocent. I could literally stand up and go, I did it, and there's nothing anybody can do. The reason is you can't be charged twice for the same crime. So if you were found not guilty, no matter what the hell happens from that point forward, O.J. Simpson could write a book and said, if I did it, here's how I did it. They could never charge him again because he had been found not guilty. There's nothing else ever that double jeopardy means. That's it. That's it. But sovereign citizen people love to just say, well, that's double jeopardy, Your Honor. And it's funny because the judges always go, I don't understand. Why would that be double jeopardy? You haven't even gone to court yet. But these people don't speak the language. If you went into a shop that works on cars, but you didn't know anything about cars except for some of the names of the parts, right? And you walked in and said, I got a 351 Cleveland, and it's got a Edelbrock manifold on it, and it's got 2 Holley 650 double pumper carburetors. And the guy said, okay, cool. Explain to me exactly that system. I don't have any idea what I just said, but I've read it in magazines and things like that. That's exactly how these people practice law, right? Did it sound like I knew what I was talking about? I don't know a damn thing about engines. I don't. It's not my thing. I don't know anything about them, but I have a really good memory, and I've heard people say those things. I don't really know what they mean. I don't, right? Hemispherically opposed, right? This is a Hemi putting out. I don't know any of that shit. It's not really my get down. But that's how these people, they learn just enough that they sound like they know what they're doing. Like this guy, Jim Neighbors, I did time with, he was the best I had ever seen. He could wax eloquently on why the entire sovereign citizen movement was solid and everyone else was a fool. He could wax eloquently on that for hours on end. Now, interestingly enough, he had a Glasgow smile. I don't know if you know what that is, but somebody had taken a razor and cut him into a very large smile on both sides. And it was funny, not funny, haha, but funny that I said to a guy once, he never shuts up. I said, it wouldn't surprise me if he got that smile on his face after telling somebody about the sovereign citizen movement for 5 hours straight. Somebody just cut him to shut him up. And one of the guys said, no, he got cut because this was years ago. Anyway, they cut him because at the time his pitch was he had a machine that could generate electricity, right? like a perpetual motion machine, something that could generate electricity. I found it funny, right? That there was always a pitch. The first one was there's this free energy source out there and the government doesn't want you to know about it. It's always the same shit, right? It seems like one has nothing to do with the other. They're the exact same thing. There is this free energy that would make the world a beautiful place, but that evil government doesn't want you to have it. Now, do I think that they probably bury patents for clean energy? I'm sure they do. I'm sure of it. I trust this government less than any sovereign citizen does. I promise. I promise. I don't trust the government. I'm not here to tell you that I think that, miss me with that. I'm sorry. I love America. And by that, I mean, I love the people here, right? I love the purple mountain majesties and the fruited plain, right? What we've become as a government makes me ill. So I am going to be touching on this, and I hope that everybody's going to weigh in and let me know. Please go and check some of this stuff out, right? Please do. By the way, some of you have reached out. Let me try to see if I can do this one last time. Huh? I find it fascinating. I'm not trying to pick a fight. I'm sure it'll end up with one, but I find it fascinating that if my ex decides to go and do a video where she trashes a bunch of people, they trash me in the response. Right? I mean, if that just ain't it's the funniest crap in the world. But I get a lot of crap. Like the two of us are a team and the two of us are still together. I find it fascinating. Maybe there's a way we could separate that so that if she throws a rock at somebody, maybe they throw the rock back at her instead of me. But it occurs to me that they just feel like I'm such a dirtbag that the worst thing that they can say about Reese is that she still is friends with me, or that she still loves me. That's the best they can come up with. I could do better. Anyway, if maybe we could, you can love your country, but you should fear your government because they can and will destroy you and you're a freaking straw man. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They can absolutely take you out. Lifeboat derangement syndromes. You know something? T-shirts. That's not bad. Do you prefer lifeboat derangement syndrome or Scoville derangement syndrome? Because they shit all over my brother. And I mean, admittedly, when I was painted as a potential murderer, Johnny got thrown in the mix. But it would probably be Scoville derangement syndrome would make more sense. She isn't friends with me. Well, I'm sure that if you guys were friends, that she would have apologized at this point. And I meant if you guys are still in contact, I'm sure that she would have apologized. Hey, I don't for a hot second believe she doesn't feel sorry. I don't. I think she feels sorry. Honestly, I think she'd bed down the knife order if she could have the opportunity to take it back. But you can't take back crap. You can't. We don't live in that world. There's no taking back things that you do. I think we all know that, right? Well, I'll be damned. Lynn Sanity, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I mean that. Good to see you. Well, the way that people do it is, we're not human. You understand? I've said this a bunch. I've only met one hater ever in real life. All of the people that hate me and make the videos and do all that stuff, I've only met one hater ever in real life. I met him. There was like a festival kind of a thing, and this person had shown up, and this person had said so many things about, they were going to kick the crap out of me and this and that. And, now it's easy to look at somebody on YouTube and go, oh yeah, I'm bigger than that dude. And then you run into him in real life and you go, damn, well, you look a lot bigger in real life than you do on camera. But whatever it was, when I met this person, my brother was there. I looked at my brother. I was like, I'm going to go over and say hi to this dude. I think I'd like to maybe bop one off of his head. And as I started walking up, this person saw me, and I promise you, I wasn't doing the scowl. I didn't have my fist clenched. I wasn't going up there to start firing on the guy. But I started walking up, and he went, "Oh man, Tommy Scoville, can I get a selfie? We take a picture?" What? Oh, because I'm real now. They're firing at us because we're straw men, right? They can't see me from their house. I'm not real. You do know I've never met any of these people. I've never met any of these people. These aren't old friends. These are just jackasses that can't be relevant. Their life is so boring, they got to live mine. I'm not being funny. I mean, think about it. You know, you live on the largesse of your wife. You don't have a job. The people that they literally are just living off of the kindness of others, and then calling me a friggin' grifter. Government assistance, sitting in a car doing nothing all day. Right? These people have a rough existence. They really do. But it's so rough that they're going to live vicariously, and they're going to pick me or my brother to do it. Now they're going to pick Reese. They hate her because they can't be her. It's the truth. You can hate that woman all you want. She's got talent, right? And by that I mean, when she puts up a video, people watch it. And they watch it because they either find her entertaining or whatever it is. I found her wicked funny. She made me laugh from the very first time I ever saw her. Yeah. The people, trolls don't have talent. They don't. That's why they're trolls. If they had talent, they would be a YouTuber. You'll never meet a troll on planet Earth that isn't a failed YouTuber. In fact, the jackwagon that everyone's talking about this time, if you went, you can't look at it because all of his channels have been deleted and taken down. But the first one that he ever did, he tried to be my brother. He did a Chase the Heat knockoff. Exactly. Problem is he couldn't eat hot stuff. That was an issue. So I had just come out and I had just started the lifeboat. So he spun out his second attempt, and he was going to be the sobriety guy. Couldn't do that either. And you know what? If I disappeared tomorrow, there'd be something else he'd have to go try that someone else did, because he doesn't have a skill on planet Earth or any teeth. I mean, it is what it is. All right, peeps. I can see I'm going in the negative direction, and I don't want to do that. I want to move closer to love. And that is the truth. That is what I'm trying to move toward. And there's something liberating. Do you know why I've never talked about this subject before? Because I'm not going to get $1 on this video. They're going to bury it. I mean, bury it. I promise. They don't want, there are certain subject matters they don't want everybody talking about, because as far as they know, I'm trying to tell you how to do away with your straw man and get your money back. They don't want those videos getting out. And I'll be honest with you, I don't blame them. But it's been liberating as hell to say words like whatever I want. Assault, murder, suicide, rape, right? Those are real words. And as I said, it's liberating not to, to not have to make a living doing this. I feel, for a long time I was trying to make a living this way, and it's very, very different. Wow, Debbie, what a really kind thing to say, man. I really appreciate that. Debbie Going Strong says, thank you for still doing videos. You are needed and appreciated. Well, I have a secret for you. Huh? Wait until you see the videos I'm doing in a month. Wait till you see the videos I'm doing in a month. Month and a half. Changing the format of the boat. Don't anybody panic, because I am changing the format on the boat to something completely different, but a far more positive. I am going to spend the rest of the time I got, no matter how long that is, and all I am going to talk about is living your best life and moving toward love. And the absolute shit human beings, the ones that starve and beat kids and then want to take high roads, and all of those people can do whatever they want. Go live the life you want. And by the way, save money for your attorney, because if there's one person on YouTube right now that has a dead ass lawsuit, save money for your attorney, you skank. Between now and the next time I see you guys, reduce a little harm. Maybe try to smile a little bit more. Huh? I know I'm having a good time. I hope you are. Debbie, that really means the world to me. It does. Because I know it's not always popular to support the Scoville boys. It takes some balls, and I appreciate the hell out of that balls. That's the truth. Between now and the next time I see you, reduce some harm. We'll see you tomorrow night, people. Happy Mother's Day to every last one of you. You people are incredible, and I mean that. Good night. Bye-bye.